What I see is that when you realize your mistake, because it's a moment of awareness, it's not something big that you have to do. We're not sent here for big things at all. It's just a moment to get back on track, arriving suddenly, like Santa Claus with his bag saying, "Come on, come on." Incredible things are happening.
Wait a minute. You have met Jordan Belfort in person.
I have met Jordan Belfort.
How can someone meet Jordan Belfort?
He was in Bulgaria.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street is very interesting and dear to me because
my meeting in '93 in Romania with the man who saved me, for me, that was the embodiment of Jesus Christ. Because otherwise, the other alternative was a club to the head, which three tough guys had prepared, and I would have been left somewhere there, but I was saved by a man who came out of nowhere.
So, until you learn to see one lev as the value of time, money, the exchange of real feeling, you shouldn't be given more money since you're not involved and would just become a millionaire from it.
Why should you be given more?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If we only distinguish between my critical thinking and those other things, the spiritual ones, and look at where each one stands, we'll always be on opposite sides. We need to find a way to connect with them, and then you really get the pleasure of seeing something you've wanted. You've had it in your mind, and at one point you get it.
And I invited people who compose film music to play in the desert, under the stars, and to sing for us. And it was incredible. And, however, some huge clouds are coming, and you can see that it's about to rain any moment. He just went whoosh, and everything disappeared. It's just that when you see it, then you realize that we really have such power, such...
But casually, without any effort?
Yes.
Yes, like this. Yuck.
Denislava and Krasimir Karezov, welcome to Reality Explorers. We were wondering where to start, and first I want to thank you for agreeing with you. Our meeting happened thanks to your invitation and initiative for an event in which I took part and presented some of the ideas and concepts we've been developing for so many years. The 8 principles of life and, in general, how we create our own reality in The Merchant of the New Earth. That's when I met you, and then a little later at the event itself we also met Crazy. From there we built a feeling, as I would call it, which attracted and created the reason for this conversation. Actually, do you know why I invited you?
We don't know.
I invited you because I saw a very interesting symbiosis in you. Krasi, if you don't mind, you are a former football referee, you've officiated many famous matches, and you are a trader, entrepreneur, and investor. At first glance, these are entirely materially oriented, focused activities. And yet, we manage to find a wonderful common language of the seeking person, the one who strives for knowledge, the one who asks questions, the one who is impressed by the mystery around us, and wants to find more answers. How and in what way, at the age you are right now, a person opens up to the spiritual and to that true part within him that constantly pursues him? Hello and welcome.
Welcome.
We are very pleased to be here. Well, Krasi, if you want, you can start first.
Because I'm older.
Because you're older.
That awakening you're talking about, it doesn't come at this age. It's there and it's embedded in. Speaking for myself, I've always felt it inside me, but maybe I didn't have the potential and the strength, and especially the scope to show it, until the moment when, after my meeting with her, And in the following years, when I already saw that she was diligently starting to study and talk about this kind of knowledge and subject matter, I saw the person who, being with me, helps me to reveal what I feel I can give. And on my 55th birthday, when we were with friends, about 50 people, as befits 55 years, we called it a cowboy party. And it was at Diado Pene in Bansko. And there, asking me, how I see myself, what I want to do. That was the first time I shared what I want to do now and what I continue to do. And I think I've started doing it, at the very least with the organization I put in myself to make it happen in the best possible way. The Merchant of the New Land 1, now we're making the Merchant of the New Land 2. So when the moment came for it to show up, I don't know. We say I announced it in the 55th year because I was asked. What will I do? I told them I want to do something that gives to people. Whether it will be charity, whether it will be caring for something, but I don't see it as just for one person or one animal. I want more people to understand and feel the meaning of life, and that life really is beautiful, no matter the difficulties that happen to us at different times. But we have to look and move forward with optimism, because there will always be light.
Well said. Denny, how do you see all of this? And actually, I am, so to speak, returning the favor to some extent, because I was a guest on your podcast, which was also related to the start of something big. As much as the salesperson is, because that was one of my own, I can't help but mention it from the perspective that my experience was also very special, just as much as the people in the audience, and I suppose what you all felt as well.
It was fantastic.
There really were a lot of people, and so for me it was a big challenge for the first time in quite a while to step out of the comfort of the cameras and to see so many people in front of me, while presenting without imposing the idea that I am exploring.
First, my conversation with you was right under a big tree, and I was really gathering my courage, because you are a great guide for my change, which is a process of difficulties that I have gone through in life, to realize that actually we have 3 options for how to approach life. The first option is simply to let ourselves be weak in the face of difficulties and let them consume us. The second option is to be those brave people who proudly say, I succeeded despite everything. But I think that when we embrace every difficulty as an extremely valuable moment that comes, especially for us and for our journey, that's when the greatest miracles happen. And over the years, I've always known that I wanted to be a salesperson. I didn't know why, but I really enjoyed communicating with people. Every time I've interacted with people, I've really wanted to be helpful. Along the way, I made quite a few mistakes, which I had to pay a high price for, because I realized that it's not enough to just be well-intentioned and want to get the job done. But you also need to think things through and consider the consequences. These are things that, when you look at life a bit more superficially and things come easily to you, you don't really realize. While developing myself in a field with great success in the commercial process, I went through a divorce. I had quite a difficult financial situation, and...
Sorry, about how many years ago did this happen?
That was roughly... So this process started around my 35th year, and I was telling myself, but that's how I lived, with this confidence in myself that I was right, that everything depended on me, Somewhere, someone else is making a mistake. My family and others make mistakes, but not me. But when I saw so many happy people around me, I thought, maybe the reason isn't others, and it's not just happening to me. And then I started reading a lot of psychology, but I saw that it didn't work for me. It tells me how to react. I don't want to just react to life. That doesn't work for me. Someone saying, if this happens to you, react this way.
Yes.
I wanted to create my own life. I knew there was something else. Book after book, book after book. It's just an endless sequence. Exploring, searching, trying. Because everything I go through, I test it on myself and observe. Just an exceptional experimenter. And I saw that some things work, others not so much. And that's how I found your YouTube channel. And I'll never forget that. I started watching, rewinding, watching again, rewinding, watching. It was endless. And I felt like not only did I watch them once, especially the episodes together for one, but I watched them several times, just to understand. And then I would rewind and watch again. Until the moment when I started to see the miracles in my life.
How did you start to see them?
Well, it's very interesting because you start to see them when you already understand that what you are a transmitter. You are not, you receive things, and in this life, you have no other responsibility except for what you transmit. Most of the time in our unconscious life, we deal with what we receive. We want to control it, but it's absolutely beyond our control. I started to observe the things I don't like, such as relationships around me, people, events, and to change myself every day. I was looking for every single sign that came. Where do I show this thing in my life? And miracles happened that just left me speechless. The merchant of the new land is like a trap for merchants, because I gather people who want to be merchants. But I completely shatter the desire to want to take. And I want to say that from the moment you and I discovered this, it's something that stays for a lifetime. Endless thanks. At this event, Krasi and I joined forces. He said, "I'm with you, it's the two of us, and this is our event. Maybe this event will be something that might remain even after us. And we will definitely make sure to give energy and meaning to it and to prepare the next people. And for it to always make sense to continue. Because what happens is that salespeople come in, and when I tell them how things really are in life, they start to give up on the sales profession." In this second episode, a wonderful woman violinist will appear whom I will never forget. We were at the seaside and she called me and said, "Denis, I don't know what to do." After, we have a meeting on Monday and Wednesday at the club. She said, "You made me think about things. I love playing the violin the most," and she says, "I'm wasting my time on unique nonsense." And she says, "I tested this with my daughter by switching roles to see myself from a child's perspective." And she says, "Do you know what I saw?" My daughter sat down. She's about 5 or 6 years old, and she says, "Okay, Mommy, now I'm you," she says. She crossed her legs and said, "I'm on ZOOM, what should I do or play with?" She said, "You'll find something to play with," she says. After waiting years for this child, she says, I missed so many important moments in life and now she's back. She'll even play the second one. At the second merchant of the new land, and miracles happen when you realize that, first of all, reality is created by you and by the distance between what you say, what you think, and what you do, until the return, like feedback with a slight amplifier. It's exactly this separation of time that deceives us into thinking that something is outside of us. Didn't Jesus say, "If someone strikes your cheek, turn the other one to him too"? He says this not just to keep us ready, but because being struck means you have also struck someone else at the same time. We have two things. One is to take what we have already created, and the other is to make a new beginning. And most people stay in the cycle spiraling down because they always react with misunderstanding. When you humble yourself and realize everything, including every reaction, comes from you. This leads to a unique change, and in that moment, just by slightly suppressing it within yourself, the need to express the injustice you didn't understand, it then gives you a different life.
And was this what inspired Krasi to join you in this? This where you see reality, were these the realizations? Actually, when was the moment when you responded to all of her interests and said, "Oh, I'm interested in this too, this path"? Why did you decide to support her right now?
Usually things, since you started by saying that each of us has been following our own path in some field until now, besides being a football referee, I'm also a lawyer. Refereeing was just a hobby. Let's be clear about that.
I prefer to let you share as much as you decide and in whatever way you want, because in our opinion, together with Denny, you have a lot you can offer to our audience. And that's that.
I'm just glad it's like that, and hopefully there will be results. So what you asked, I started by saying that with us, given the diversity of our activities, everyone mostly deals with their own tasks, professions, passions, desires, and devotes themselves fully to them, but while going their own ways, we are not indifferent to each other. We have learned to sense who needs what and when. Sometimes, she might not realize it when I've asked her one question or another related to something that's mine, but it's asked just so I can hear a spontaneous and different point of view, which helps me, for example, with something of mine. With her, she also rarely, shares about the things she does in an operational, orderly way, leading her to the end. But especially here, we had already reached a stage in life where we knew each other very well. And when she invited me to be the organizer, in that sense, the person who would handle the exact things according to the script, according to the checklist, so to speak, and to take responsibility for communicating both with Interexpo Center and with you personally, for the technical things that the guest speakers needed, I saw that I was really needed, and knowing myself, she doesn't invite me because it will be free for her, but she invites me because she knows the job will be done properly. Because in the things I do, I approach them with maximum concentration, attention, and meticulousness, I would call it. Here, I don't think it's a bad thing for a person to be meticulous in something that needs to be done in the best possible way. And by taking on this task, I was also happy that I would be part of something new, something that is hers, and something that really, when it was being made, I didn't know that the result would be something that would make even me cry at the end.
I remember you were both of us, of course, we were all very emotional, but you, because we had met in person, and really, at first you seemed like a very serious person who was there to keep everything under control. And the moment we exchanged a few words, I noticed that I felt that you have a warm heart, but at the same time you really want everything to go exactly as you planned, in the best possible way. And mainly because that's your dedication to her. In this case, it really showed. That was really special. Not that I don't actually know if it happens rarely, but at your age, you can see it. You could see the spark, guys, that thing where you're ready to do something for someone else. That's something that we talk about, and we give different examples of this wholeness which exists between two people, or even between us and the universe. So it was unique, really, and I want to thank you for that. And with his addition, when he reacted that way, we saw, in this case you saw, right, for example, we met his version for the first time, which was open, free, and allowed himself to be more emotional.
It's really nice, and I definitely believe that from now on, whatever we do, we should do it together. And we need to have true faith in ourselves that the absolute vortex appears when the man and the woman are together. I just see times coming when people are running away from each other and somehow seeking distance. They can't understand how many great things are behind that curtain. And somehow I really want this to be part of our mission too, to make people be together in things. Because I often ask them when we start the first lecture, I ask, how are you with your first client? They say, who is that? And I say, don't you know who it is? Your husband. And they're like, but how? Well, did you sign a contract? I say, if you, when you've given your most precious thing, can't sit down and talk and be honest and be the person who is, how do you think you'll win the world out there? If you want to be the merchant of the new land, if you want to be an ordinary person, go out and just be there for the sake of being present. But the most valuable thing begins with connection, two people, and support. For me, this event won't mean as much without both of us. Honestly, since the message is incomplete, I can't convey it with enough belief or understanding.
As understanding.
And your presence was something that started it all. I knew inside, it was absolutely certain. I had seen the picture, I had seen everything.
When you say I had seen it, since our audience is familiar with the type of seeing that exists besides our normal eyes, how do you see it? Do you visualize? Does it just appear in your mind? Do you imagine the images?
Now I'm going way back when I was a student.
Yes.
Very much like enormous. My dream was to show people and to teach them in life. And I imagine myself leading 2 classes, 3 classes after me. So when I come home from school, how they walk after me and I tell them about different things. It was just part of all my fantasizing, if I can call it that, or visualizing. But then one day my mom told me that they saw me and I was talking to myself on the street. That ended my visualizing as I was just walking, talking to myself and imagining everything while letting go. And that dreamer in me has never gone away. And the thing that has really guided me in life is exactly that. I see something that no one else sees. I really see the picture, I see the strength, I see the meaning, but there are people who tell me I don't see it. And I say, I'm sorry, but I see it. And every time I have believed in things and kept moving forward, huge miracles have happened and I have seen them. And I can't explain that you don't need to have everything in order. I mean, you can't really arrange anything, put all the facts together and say this will be successful or not. But if your inner faith and that such a great feeling doesn't leave you, it's something that takes you far. And I see it as a picture. My mind is like a picture. I saw you on stage and knew I'd accept, just not when. I even knew I'd meet Ivo. Well, but I even know that we will be apart. But it was never at any cost or anything. I was just waiting for the moment. And it's like life. I see it like a button that spins, spins, spins. And when it clicks for me to the next scene, that means I've walked a path I'm ready for. I mean, I see the things that will happen to me, but I know I have to walk the path. And I don't wait for them passively. I just work on myself to see when that button will click.
How long have you been together?
Since 2015?
So,
June 22nd.
It's been about 11 years now.
Punctually. It's very...
Do you believe that each of you can answer me individually? That everything that has happened to you in life? Look, people don't know you. Or at least in this light, they don't know many things about my personal life either. Right now, we're like people who have met in the park and are talking. Do you think everything that's happened to you so far is fate? Or did you choose it?
To ask something like that right in the park. I believe we shape our own lives. Fate might have a hand in it, as they say, the hand of fate, but creating it depends on the person, on their choices. Because it's always good to have a choice and to make your own decisions. Having freedom of choice, or if you feel pressured to find the little time of freedom to choose to make the right, useful choice. That's what I think.
I think that there is something that is predetermined. It's a choice in the sense that you choose your card, right? And your card is like that too. To a large extent, it's like a city that has everything. But the path where you will go and the direction you will take, and the choice whether you will go inward to look for yourself or outward, creates the feeling or reality you want to live in. Because my father passed away when I was 3 years old, and he was a motocross racer. So, according to stories from his friends, he was very good at what he did. That has always given me an inner strength. Many times I've talked to him in my mind, to tell him things, to show that I also move forward with determination in this life, that I won't give up, that I have the strength, that I can fall, I can get back up, and that's part of destiny. It's not my choice for things to happen this way. But when life passes in a certain time frame and you look back, you realize that this is an enormous strength. All that happens to you in life, as long as you can draw your own conclusions. I also come to another conclusion. Everything is family. Family is in everything. I asked Ivo, is there a chance you might be switching the plus with the minus further down the tree? We apparently need to reach that 3%, and I can clearly see where my 3% were in my own life. In every choice, we look for the easy way. If something hard and something easy come up, we set aside the hard one. We cut people out of our lives, we avoid situations, we change cities, we change countries because we don't like it. But that's where our greatest potential is hidden. And somehow, after so much separating, in the end you are left. I was left alone like that on an Easter day, and I told myself, these are my 3%. I'll never forget the feeling I had then. And then I started taking responsibility for my life. I started wondering where to even begin with all this change. Because you realize that it's a series of wrong behaviors you've had.
And what was the first thing that reached out to you on the spiritual side to help you see life not only from a material point of view? Because when people hear the term merchant and the people you also invite, without knowing they've fallen into this trap, in quotes. This is entirely, I'm saying in the standard sense, a material profession that deals with money without adding that money is energy like everything else and so on. How does someone like you, who has gone through this, suddenly turn around and say, not only will I go and I will expand myself, but I will also find a way to implement everything I know and turn it into something useful for everyone else? Because in words, this really sounds very romantic and at the same time very fairy tale-like, but there are very few people who can actually achieve it.
Well, first I asked myself, what do I know best? The answer was sales. Do I have the achievements behind me? Yes, I do. What can I pass on to people? It's the love for people. I won't forget, it was a very interesting moment because that's when I decided that I would start teaching. And I admit I took Jordan Belfort's book since I had met him in person and I started. We stood there. Krasi, as always, was right by my side and said, I've got your back. And I started writing my first lectures on sales so I could prepare my lecture and step out into the world as a lecturer. Then I went to Natalia Kobilkina, and now I want to thank her from the screen for reaching out to me. She said, come on, you'll do a marathon. And true to her style, she gathered 300 people for this marathon, people from all over the world. And I had to go out and give lectures.
Yes.
But I have to record a video, and the moment I set up the camera and say, I'm Denislava, that's as far as I get. And that's it. Everything stops. Just silence.
I freeze.
I froze. I can already see that time is starting to count backwards. People are waiting for me to go out. I have nothing to say, and I tell him, please write it for me. I'm Denislava Carezo. I'll start memorizing. I mean to learn. I froze up.
Did you write the text for her then?
He wrote the words for me about who I am. It was so... Because one night he wasn't there, and I thought, actors get a little whiskey to relax. Let me pour myself 10 or 20 grams of whiskey just to... And I sent a message to Cici, my daughter. She was in Milan. She said, Mom, you already visibly look drunk. And I said, okay, I'm stopping with the whiskey. The next night, I decided to try with a box of chocolates. I ate them and said, no, this isn't working. But, see, that's part of my character. Until I take the next step, I won't give up. Here, There are about 300 videos. I'll find them for you. Watching them is like shock therapy. After that, we were already in Svilengrad. Natalia called me and said, Denny, people are really waiting. That's when I realized there was no turning back. And in a hotel, I still remember the chair. I went down and said this thing and posted it. I admit the first time it was a strict sales lecture. But once I make a decision, I know the road is long, and I start, and there's no turning back. But I saw how many doors opened for me, and somehow I don't remember. It was like the name Merchant of the New Land just came down to me from above. I didn't even know exactly how I would shape it, but now I know that now I know the whole concept. Back then I didn't know it.
Wait a minute. You've met Jordan Belfort in person?
I've met Jordan Belfort.
How does someone meet Jordan Belfort?
He was in Bulgaria.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street is a very interesting and very dear person to me because he is exactly the person you are talking about. This person is really, he says his sales concept is given from above, coming to him in dreams. All of this, which he gives as methodology up to this point, he turns into the most extravagant life you could possibly live. And he ends up in prison, and what happens to him? He says, in prison, I decided I wanted one thing. When I get out, I want my children to be proud of me. And I truly believe that. Now, as I read the Bible, I realize that it's not important to be pure people from the very beginning, but it's very valuable to be able, in this human life, not to miss the moment to stop and turn the game around. And for me, this is probably the most valuable thing that can happen to a soul that is walking the path. Just to say, stop, up to here, I was wrong, now I'm turning the game around. And you're convinced of what it is. Because I don't believe in change without difficulty. And I also think that a person's character is best seen when you're under pressure. Otherwise, you don't know who you are. You can't even recognize yourself, your reactions, your behavior.
Krashi, the legal profession requires a lot of doubt. It requires verification. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. That's exactly right.
It requires doubt even in obvious evidence. Football refereeing, on the other hand, also has its own concepts. Sometimes the match is decided in advance, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to be ready to react in the moment. All qualities of the critical person, of critical thinking, of the person who does not agree with the status quo or with what he has been shown that he should do and believe. With all the experience you have, how do you manage to expand your mind to allow the concepts that interest her at the moment and from this moment on, from the merchant onwards? In what way? Doesn't this thing that you've had for so long and have as logic get in your way? Because we know that men are very logical.
These are also our clashes at home.
Yes.
Otherwise, in refereeing, since there will probably be other viewers who are interested in refereeing, there the saying is, expect the unexpected, and that's part of the methodology in refereeing. Because really, on the field, you don't know what will happen in the next second, let alone during the 90 minutes, what and how things will happen. But regarding your question, aside from lawyering and refereeing, since those are exactly like that, with her, until about a year ago, we had a misunderstanding about the concept of critical thinking. Maybe a little more than a year, she thought that critical thinking meant that I should constantly criticize something, but that's not the case.
So, and then?
We cleared it up, so now she knows what critical thinking is, and that things aren't always the way they seem. That's their true nature. And many times, by letting something happen, but keeping in mind the possible directions it could take, the alternatives, the expectations, especially when you yourself are involved in something like that, you have the opportunity to steer what is about to happen in the way you believe is best for you, your family, your kids, or others. And especially since you mentioned law, that's exactly my job. And I constantly come across my clients because in our profession, that's what we call the people we talk to, who haven't always managed to clearly define in advance what they want to do in a way that the message reaches the person they want to sell it to. Because usually everything is a deal. A contract, even a bilateral contract, is also a deal. For example, yesterday I came across a case where I was given a contract to review with numerous comments after comments from the other side. But in my view of things, when I got back in touch with the person who gave it to me and told him, I don't find the objections that the other side has given your counterpart to be illogical and incorrect. If I were in his place, I would have given the same ones. And when we started to dig into it with the person, why and how it got to this point, it turned out that they simply gave the wrong assignment to a fellow lawyer to prepare the contract for them, and that their contract has nothing to do with assembling or manufacturing, but it's just a regular delivery.
Yes.
So here's the critical thinking in this case, which I believe it helps to reach the true desire and what is wanted and to find the way for it to be realized.
And how do we apply it when we encounter concepts, for example, that we present? Because when we talk about invisible worlds, when we talk about those ancient structures that still stand to this day on Earth, as reminders of the power and strength of ancient civilizations and the knowledge that is within us, in general, everything that is currently emerging as a trend for spirituality and modernism. How can we simultaneously apply this critical thinking, which you are very familiar with, and at the same time allow these very abstract options so that we can see where our place is in them?
We need to find a way to combine ourselves with them. Because if we only distinguish between my critical thinking and those other things, the spiritual ones, and look at who is where, we will always be on opposite sides. We need to find a way to combine ourselves with them. And then you really get the pleasure of seeing something that you wanted, something you had in your mind, and at some point you get it. The combining.
That's right, yes.
Combining leads to this result.
That's very beautifully said.
I want to share with you that I never even thought. I was secretly reading the books about co-vitality, secretly watching videos, and somehow I was thinking, God, will I ever sit down with this person to talk about aliens, about other worlds?
Do you remember your first conversation like that? Do you remember it?
I can't remember, but definitely now that I realize that today it's just the two of us here with him, that the two of us are doing everything, and I say to myself, wow, so everything is happening. Even just to make the audience laugh a little, a month ago we were going to bed in the bedroom and something started knocking, and he said, if that's the aliens, since you want to talk to them, you go and deal with it. He says, I'm just not. When you're ready, go to the other room and talk. When I'm ready, I'll go.
And what did you do? Did you go?
I went. I was brave, but at the same time I was a little bit, well, I know that I will have a date. I mean, I believe in it and I know it's coming, but I don't know when it will happen. And I know that you're never really ready for it. But since he pushed me to go and see, he was convinced that it was aliens. So I had to go and handle it by myself. And when we went to bed, I said, it's nothing. Everything is fine. And then behind us, they started again. He said, I told you. I said, no, now we're going to sleep already. But we have these funny situations. But he is very wise in a very special way. The things that used to annoy me the most about him, when I understand them now, when I realize them, I see that this is actually the strongest push I've ever had to be able to change myself. For example, I get up in the morning and we have coffee in bed and I tell him, I'm in such a hurry, today I have so many tasks, so much work, so much. And he says, Everyone has the same amount of time. I don't get why you act so busy. It blows my mind. You don't understand me or want to see my perspective. But some time passed, and there was something I noticed, that I am very generous with people, but I almost never get a compliment myself. I was like, why is that? Is the world closed to me? I realize it's my fault, but I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I know I'm generous. Even with just 2 leva, I'd gladly give them away. And by chance, my sister sends me a book that I've already read by Geshe, and I open it. And this woman, just like me, asks, Geshe, tell me. The book is called The Karma of Love. Tell me, why don't I have generosity in my life? He asks, how are you with the most valuable resource? She replies, what is it? He says, time. She echoes, time. She says, I never have enough of it. And he replies, there's no way the universe will grant you abundance. And at that moment, I remember all his lines that he sent them to you.
He kept sending them to you, sending them.
They were by my side every day, every moment. Because it really is, well, it's silly to think that you are working when everyone has the same amount of time, and time is the most valuable resource to enjoy. At that moment, the injection was so strong that I thought, if I tell him, I'll take care of them. Stupid, because it was almost like it was next to me every morning. This thing, I didn't hear it, but I stopped the car. I won't forget, I opened my little notebook to check. And out of 10 meetings, I made 5. People had learned about me. When I sat down, they would ask, when do you have to leave? As soon as I sat down, I'd say I had to leave, that I was in a hurry, that...
I'm in a hurry. We need to be quick.
And then I sat down and said, I have all the time. From that day until today, I've kept that promise, and I really like it. But I want to tell you that gifts started coming like a dump truck, from here, from there. I said, wow, is this really the universe? Does it really take so long? It was a unique sign. What I see is that when you realize your mistake, because it's a moment of awareness, it's not something big that you have to do. We're not sent here for big things at all. It's just a moment to get on the path. It comes just like that. Like Santa Claus with his bags, and he tells you, go on, go on, go on. Simply amazing things are happening. Right now I'm doing marathons that are about Jewish principles for money, spiritual principles for money, since that's also been another topic for us, with him in a debate because he knows how to manage and value money. And notice...
What has been your most significant argument in that direction?
I'll say right away. He, for example, collects coins and I say, here you go, from your own money. And now I tell myself, when he brings me back to first grade, because I'm going through difficulties, I tell myself, you know, we read the Bible. When you haven't learned from the little things, you won't be given the big things. First it has to happen. And I tell myself, look, you see, it's happening to me again, but I have to go through this. And miracles happen just within these walls here. In these 2 or 3 months that I've been working with people, a really big miracle happened to me. A close friend of mine with shared financial obligations, he just called and said, you don't owe me anything. For me, that was... I couldn't believe what was happening to me. It's like, you know, you can see that the universe is telling you that you don't even have to pay them off. They can be erased like on a blackboard, as long as you reach that level of consciousness. Now I'm asking myself, if I return to first grade, what do I need to bring? I sit humbly on the bench and think, what did I miss? First, I missed learning to save and appreciating small things. So, until you learn to see that one lev as the value of time, money, and exchange for a real feeling, there's no reason for you to be trusted with more money. You wouldn't know what to do with it, and you'd just be like a millionaire.
Why should you be given more?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is, yes, a long, long topic indeed for how much, and not just the money. That's a foundation that you're opening up. It's really about how much we value both our time and the people we're with, and how much we're able to be present in the unique moment. While we're appreciating how genuine are we, how much are we truly in the present.
It's so beautiful when someone approaches their relationship with money through spirituality. It's such a beauty, because every act of giving is an attitude toward the person. Every act of returning, and every moment you choose it. Because even the arrangement of the money you've earned, first to think about your family, to think about the people close to you, not to live selfishly, you know, just spending everything you get in a day, the way you distribute it, the sense of the person you are becoming. And what I see is that the greatest beauty in life isn't those dreams, those visualizations people make and imagine they want this or that. Maybe for me, it's much more valuable to focus on the person you'll be there. Really, the person who has this amount today and the person who wants the big amount to see yourself. By then, you should have understood that you need to be generous, that you need to give, to see the poor person, to have a hand, to have an open hand outward, to be able to think, not to rush to buy pointless things, because you are trading your time. Since in a human lifetime, you can earn only a certain amount of money, and every loss or money spent in vain is irretrievably lost. There's just a great, great beauty because that's where the meaning is, to give value. It's just a unit of exchange, not your life.
And what would you say to people who might think, because we've had such comments, she's talking about money now and at the same time mentioning spirituality, that's incompatible? Did Jesus do that when he lived? We get comments like that.
I've personally taken parables about money from Jesus, and he never says anywhere that money is a bad thing, but it makes sense. Even the parable about the master who gave 1 coin to each of his 3 servants and told them, "When I come back, I want you to have multiplied them." If we take the coin to mean this, the most important thing to me is for someone to discover their gift, because I am definitely waiting for that moment when the end of life will come. Well, I'm not waiting for it, but when it comes, God willing, may we live long and be healthy, but I know that I will have an exam and they will ask me, "This gift that we gave you." See, this is part of something we are born with. What did you do with it? And look, when you share your gift, notice that some spiritual people, when you don't think about money at all, but do what you were given, truly giving it to people, they are some of the richest people. Geshe Michael Roach spent 3 years in silent retreat in a reserve, and every 6 months he would come out to share what he had thought about during that silent time in the forest.
Yes.
He asks, "Are you seeking abundance?" You know, they ask him the question about finances, and he says, "When you truly learn to give from the heart, you will be immensely rich." The truth is, money is very connected. It's a huge signal. A person who achieves lasting wealth means that they are also developing their character and, to a great extent, figuring out the right things they need to learn in life. But look at what is said in the parable. The first one, the one who turned 5 into 10, he says, "I took them and acted immediately. I didn't think, I just went ahead and acted right away." The second one said, "I thought, I reflected a little." The other one was afraid. And he says, "To you, give it to those you have, to those who, you don't need them. You can't manage them." That's why I believe that something we haven't learned to manage doesn't belong to us.
A lot. This is a very instructive story.
And that's why it is said in the Bible, those who have will keep having, not because the rich get richer, but because they understand the laws of the universe.
Exactly.
And the one who does not have even what he has will be taken away from him.
It will be taken away from him. That's how it is. How does a person like you, based on your experience, find or can find their gift, the reason they're here on Earth? What's your view?
It's exactly your experience that shows it. At some point, you understand what you love to do with pleasure, what brings you joy, that's your gift. And when you develop it, you start. First, you're happy with what you do because you do it with ease, because you like it. And there are always people who find it useful, who expect it, who want it, who look for it. And I think that's how it is.
And to what extent is it set, the collective where? We are constantly being given ads, we're being nudged. Here, look at this, explore this. There's an offer here, try this deal. From the environment, how do we find our way? And at the same time, keep what is truly authentic to us, what is really our gift, and not what has been imposed on us as what our gift should be.
With critical thinking.
All right.
I just want to add that Krasi has reached a much greater awareness I don't know if I've ever told him this. I don't know if he even realizes it, but he has a higher gift, which is, for me, the highest gift is to serve people. This person, whatever he takes on, just with the thought that he's doing it for people, he won't sleep. Sometimes he won't go to bed all night until he perfects it. And he says, "You can find beauty in everything." He made me fall in love with many processes that I used to look at and wasn't even interested in. But when you see him doing it with such heart and you see that it's not just your own feeling put into it, whether you enjoy it or not, but the bigger picture is whether you'll make someone happy. And that's the huge difference. We often run away from things because our goal is for us to be happy, but when you put the person, it comes, for me, maybe the greatest gift is truly to understand that you are here to serve.
When you say that about him, I can't help but think of the memory of when we visited you and had a very specific incident with Krasi, which, if he allows, we can tell together. That's when exactly what I told you happened, because it was early in the morning, and I had gotten up a bit earlier. I wanted to try out my drone to capture the beautiful nature, but I didn't have enough battery, and I thought to myself, it'll last, it's not a big deal. Go ahead, let's film. And I ended up in the shot. At one point, the drone's battery died and it crashed in a random field in the mountains. And I was in shock because I thought, look, we've come to an unfamiliar place. I don't know this area. No, that was the first thing I thought of. I'm not sure I can find it. Now, how do we tell them? I feel uncomfortable. And at that moment, he had already come. He hadn't even woken up yet. He came out in his pajamas and was already ready for us to go out and look for it. And after that, you can tell what happened because I'm curious. It's really cool the way you tell it.
Well, after that, when we went out on the street and I saw on your phone where the drone was, we had to find it because the direction was the one we headed in.
Yes.
But the problem came from the fact that I kept thinking it was 50 meters away or 90 meters away.
That's how it showed.
Yes, and most likely that's the distance as the crow flies, but in reality, those 50 meters it was showing your phone. We crossed them on foot along with everything else, and the river that was limiting us on the left side. And I already started to worry because I thought I knew the area there. I'll never forget how we jumped over like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. An iron gate, assuming it was there because of the directions. Thank God the house in this stranger's yard is empty. We didn't scare anyone inside, but we climbed over once to get in and a second time to get out. And when it keeps showing that this isn't the place, the map that's on your phone, the extra worry came that now the drone's battery was completely dead and it shut off, and only that point on the phone was left. If we lose that too, and you say you saw it on camera at the last moment falling onto what looks like a flat field, I'm telling you there's no field there.
The hill starts there, yeah.
But I don't know something. So you and I together, we left with your car right then to stop a bit further down to cross the river.
To check if we can cross the other.
If we can get to the other side. And it turned out that in the most overgrown spot where we had stopped, the path actually kind of ended there. Further on, a cart track branched off to the left and to the right, and we saw a man coming out of nowhere as well.
But I want to add something here. So we're already leaving with the car. We're moving away from what the screen is showing, to go around. It will zoom out again so we can find it. And then we reach a fork, unsure whether to go left or right. And the moment I thought about it, I was actually, sitting in the car and you saw there, a man was coming. We shouldn't stay in the car. We should go greet him, be on his level. And he went and asked him.
I told him directly, God is sending you, I said, to help us.
Oh, yes.
And he, actually sat down, but the man was also polite and attentive, even though this meeting was so unexpected, early in the morning with him. But my next question was actually, is there a meadow up there? He said, "There are two, remember?"
He replied, "There are two."
And if he hadn't said again that there are two, we, going to the first one and not finding the drone, would have actually come back without the drone.
Oh, yeah, because it was at the second one.
Exactly. We reached the first one, searched all over it, and couldn't find the drone. And then we realized that he told us there are two. That was actually his answer.
Imagine that.
Yes, there are two. And from there, we slipped under some bushes to look for the second meadow. And we found the second one.
The man from nowhere wore a suit.
The man, yes, he was well dressed and well groomed.
He was very properly dressed. I think he was wearing a shirt back then.
Wearing a buttoned-up shirt and glasses, but that was earlier. Early in the morning, alone in the forest. Yes, he wasn't holding anything. He didn't have a bag, nothing. And as we went up, when we passed the two meadows, there was no fountain, no chair to sit on, nothing, nothing.
That was a
It was somewhat a mystery to me.
mystery.
But we solved it. It really was.
Did we solve it or hear?
That we have a result. Yes, yes.
Yes. Desire, energy, and faith led us to find the drone.
The drone. Look.
Very cool. And then I'll never forget how I said, "Now let's see. What did everyone take from the situation?" And that discussion was really cool.
A lot.
Because I saw how he was always looking for some authority, always trying to push him forward. For me, he is the person who can really find his way and handle things. And sometimes the challenge of why it came to you, it's good to get into.
Yes, and yes, it's very interesting, this thing. How once a person sets out, even though it's obvious they don't know exactly where or how, it always happens that life gives them very subtle hints. It's not, "Hey, look over there, go that way." Although there are cases like that, it's always very subtle. Someone passes by, plays, "There are two meadows, bye. Something happens. If you want, you can try from there too. Go to that store. You go there and find the perfect gift for your loved one."
In that situation, it never crossed my mind to give up. While there are other situations in life where something doesn't happen, some obstacle comes up. For example, if I'm looking for someone and they don't answer the phone after I call for a while, I just think, I guess it wasn't meant to be, and I don't try again.
Yeah, and how do you know when you should and when you shouldn't?
First, for it to be necessary, you must want to call someone, to dial their number. You have a reason or something to say. When we look for someone, it's usually to tell or ask them something. And when the other person doesn't pick up the phone, you either call again right away, or after 5 minutes, or after half an hour or more, or you tell yourself, I guess it wasn't meant to be. And that thought crossed my mind, in another situation of mine, and it turned out to be for the best.
Yeah, very interesting.
But with your drone, I knew that we would find the drone, even though it was my first time seeing that field.
Yeah, because
for me, it was a forest there, but it turned out there were actually two fields.
Look at that.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Do you have such experiences in others where do you have such moments in life where something happened to you and to this day, when you look back at that moment, you have no explanation, or it's something so different that it enlightened you and it's very serious for you? It made you think?
There are many like that.
Which one comes to your mind right now?
Two incidents. One of them I will never forget. My meeting in 1993 in Romania, around 2:30 at night, during the night with the man who saved me. For me, that was the embodiment, as I imagine it, of Jesus Christ, because otherwise the other alternative was a club to the head, which 3 guys had prepared, and I would have been left somewhere there, but I was saved by a man who came out of nowhere.
Can you tell a bit more?
I can. It's an interesting but long story.
All right.
It's a very long story. I'm coming back with a car for my friend, which, because I had an official passport in 1993 in Austria, still with Bulgarian official passports, didn't require a visa. And in 1993, I'm saying, there was no European Union. Austria still had shillings, their own currency. There was no euro and so on, These were our democracy's earliest years. And I had an official passport, which I think was issued in 1988 in connection with our first student cooperatives. And I went to do this favor for my friend who had to bring this little Ford from Vienna to Sofia to Bulgaria. Yes, because there it was about to reach 10 years since its initial registration, and a higher tax would have to be paid. And on the way back, I chose the route after Hungary. You know, you either enter Serbia at Novi Sad or Romania at Arad, which is the Romanian city, with the last Hungarian city there being Szeged. I decided not to go through Serbia, but through Romania instead. I entered through Romania and kept driving. At one point, I saw a sign that said Iron Gates. Apparently, I was driving along the Danube, but the Danube was on my right as I was heading south to Bulgaria. And I remembered how, back in the day at 3 o'clock, I think it's still the same, on the Horizon program, at 3 o'clock they announced the level of the Danube River and mentioned the different cities the Danube passes through and what the water level is. And one of those places I've heard about is Železní Vrata. So I stopped back then to see Železní Vrata in the dark because I was about 500 meters away from them. On the shore, the road passes by there. I didn't go through the fields, of course, and to see what a lock looks like in real life. Until then, I knew about locks but didn't understand how they worked. And so in half an hour, I saw how the water level is equalized and the gates open, and then I continued on my way. What's interesting, up to that point, I was driving with my seatbelt on, a two-door Ford Escort, a model from 20, 30 years ago or more. Anyone can imagine the back seat. There was even a bonus. They had given my friend 4 winter car tires, 2 doors, a third door in the back, and from there, when already I left, I didn't put on the seatbelt. I said, I'm not going to wear it. It's night. The police won't stop me now. I'm driving. At one point, a Mazda with German plates, 626 white, overtook me and...
Cool.
He overtook me, so I decided to follow behind him. It didn't bother me since I was on an unfamiliar road. He's leading me well, he's going at my speed. So we're driving at about 110 kilometers per hour. The road, there's nobody else on it, you know, and after maybe 10 minutes or more of driving together, we already have the feeling that we're a pair on the road.
Yes.
Suddenly, I see him going into a right turn, but behind him, against the background of his brake lights, a red cloud of dust rises.
Yes.
I was tired because I had been driving and I wasn't as experienced a driver then as I am now. And I thought that something had caught fire.
Yes.
He disappeared, turned, reappeared, but I saw the smoke linger behind him.
And he got worried.
At that moment, I hit the brakes and feel the car has no grip because I'm already entering the turn too. Until then, we had been about 50 to 100 meters apart from each other. I entered the turn and immediately felt it. No grip, just sliding left.
Man.
I see a tree that's off the road. 2 thoughts went through my mind. First, that the car might split right down the middle through the pillar, and second, about refereeing football, whether I'd be able to continue being a football referee. At that time, my career was on the rise. In '93, I was in the B group, waiting for the A group, and in the next moment, I don't remember anything. When the time came for me to realize that I was myself and that I was a person, it turned out again that I was on the road. The tree was still at least 2 or 3 meters away, those roadside trees, set back from the road. The car is now back on the road, upside down. I'm lying on the ground, somewhere about 2 meters behind it.
Oh.
I look at myself. I don't have any tears. I don't have anything broken on me. I move my arms and legs, but I'm still lying prone on the ground. An Audi came. Back then we used to call them Egg Audi. They were Audi 80. 3 guys get out of it. They're holding baseball bats. Back then, those were the tools people used to operate with. And one of them comes toward me, but I just sat down. I stood up like this. Actually, I sat on a rock or something. There was something behind me.
And is your car flipped over?
The car is on its roof. The car is on its roof. The 2 of them started. The others began looting, taking out whatever there was. The first thing they took, of course, was the tires. This guy came toward me, but he saw that I wasn't going to resist, nor was there anything I could do to stop what they were about to do. and he went back. They called him for something, and he went back. But what happened right after that? I see that Mazda coming back, the same one, and two people get out of it, one of whom was wearing dark jeans, pants, jeans, and a white shirt, light-haired, in the way that the image of Jesus Christ is depicted in many icons. To me, this person was exactly the same. He came to me first, He asked me if I needed any help.
And in the meantime,
Meanwhile, they looted. I heard Romanians say battery, battery, meaning it was disconnected, so that there wouldn't be a spark somewhere, a fire, an explosion, and so on. Their goal was to loot. They passed by with some kind of truck, which I figured out later. They scattered fine gravel on the right turn. It's clear that something will happen there, right?
An accident.
Someone will crash, and then they're considered prey.
Yes.
If someone tries to rebel in my position, they have clubs.
They have clubs?
They have clubs, yes. This man first came to me to ask if I was okay. I said, yeah, I'm okay. And...
Was he Romanian?
No, he turned out to be American.
American?
American, yes. The other one with him, turned out to be Bulgarian.
Wow.
Yes. A boy, a Bulgarian, who back in the 90s was then... The way to emigrate from Bulgaria was with a trip to Cuba. That was the beginning, 1991. He takes a ticket to Cuba, but since the planes, the European ones, refueled in Canada and...
You get off in Canada?
Yes, during the hour or hour and a half while the plane refuels, they get off there. They're gone already. They're not interested in Cuba anymore. They stay in Canada. That's right. And it turned out that this boy of ours, the Bulgarian one, is that type, Canadian. They went to America because the goal is to go to America. He worked there for 3 years, met this American, and they started a business together. The American wanted to see where Bulgaria is and what Bulgaria is like. They landed in Frankfurt, bought the Mazda there. That's why it has German plates, and set off for Bulgaria with it.
Wow.
This man saved me that way back then. I will never forget him, right? Neither his image nor the situation that happened.
And did he come and did they leave after that? No, he came first, right?
No, he came first, right? When he asked if I was okay, I said, I'm okay, it's nothing. After that, he went to defend my property because, I drive this car, even though it's not mine, it's my friend's, But in it, there are the tires, some other things. I don't know if there was anything else, probably not, but the tires, they began removing all 4 off-road tires, and he went to one of them. And as the Romanian was holding it like this, he grabs under his armpit and carries it like a tire. He grabbed it from the other side through the same hole, and it was like a chain.
If only there were people like that nowadays.
And in no time, tension was created.
A situation?
A situation, yes, because for him, it's not normal to loot like this. He still doesn't realize what has happened. And I pulled him back and said, there's no point, leave it. I realized this guy was Bulgarian when he asked, is your passport with you? I had cleverly put it in my sock. My passport was in one sock, and my money, whatever I had left, was in the other.
Yeah, those were the times.
Yeah, those were the years, yeah. And I said, everything is with me. He said, come on, let's go together. By 6 in the morning, we were already in Calafat, having used the Vidin Calafat ferry. The cars that came were all the ones going to Bulgaria, on the ferry to Calafat. They say they saw it, the car, but no one can believe that anyone survived from that car, let alone me, completely unscathed. So there's a story like that. Another one happened to me last week.
Last week?
Denny, do you know?
No.
He knows, of course he knows. I'll say it right now.
Let's start from the beginning.
He knows. A week earlier, before the Manala, I met her at one of our forums where we are both members. Business Network International. I'm not sure anyone's heard of it. Business Network International. The most interesting thing is, just a side note, that Business Network International is an organization that has been around for 40 years now. Its founder is an American, and its slogan is Give Us Gain. Give us win. With 6 other principles that are generally applicable. So at this forum, I met a man who was introduced to me as Petar Georgiev from Canada. And just like with you, if you remember, when I saw you, what did I say? Hey, you don't look this tall when I see you on camera.
That's right.
Yes, those were my spontaneous first words to you when we met at the Merchant of the New Land, the first edition. And here, when the man introduced himself saying he's from Canada, I said, hey, are you one of those Canadians who go to Cuba with the tourists? But he also joined in. So, I'm joking and trying to make connections, and apparently he sensed that I'm not asking out of curiosity. It's just, a nice conversation about. We had 2 or 3 minutes of networking before the event actually started. And he handed me a flyer for his book, which was going to be promoted next week. That's why I'm saying let's go back to a week ago and not see each other until then. I specifically tell her this was one of those rainy days like the ones we had in Sofia. It was raining a lot then. I say, go. She had to go to her courses at 7 o'clock. I said, I'll go check out this thing with the book because I was interested in what the person had to share since back in 93 he had emigrated to Canada. I look at him, he's about my age with enough, rich life experience already. I got there at 6:55, though it starts at 6:30. The gallery was announced to open. I even knocked. They opened for me. They were still, arranging things in the gallery. Bulgari was there, and I go for a book, and indeed the books are there on the table. It turned out that besides the one that was going to be presented, he had published 2 other books, one poetry collection, but he invited me as an author of a book and we greeted each other. So he thanked me. He was glad that I responded to his invitation to come. And I see that I'm in an exhibition hall. There were 2 halls, actually 3. He says, here, these are my paintings. I ask, really? Are they all yours? He replies, no, not all. Only in this hall and this hall, these are mine. And I stand in front of a painting, which for me is the creation.
For you, or is it really the creation?
For me. He called, when he stood up, I said, is this one yours too? He says, yes. I said, that's creation, man. What did you name her? He says, Hunter Enigma. On the hunt for,
On the hunt for.
Which. This story's a bit longer, but I'll tell it.
Go ahead.
You see in her. First you watch the flood, the embodiment of everything that a person can imagine in their mind of what a flood could be and look like. You see it on the canvas, but you see it in only one single color, gray with many shades. And I joke that 50 Shades of Grey isn't just about the erotic elements, but, that's something I said to Denis Lavka at home after I had already brought the painting. But you look at the grey, which actually has color. From that point of view, I say that the 50 Shades of Grey movie isn't only about its eroticism. It leaves the viewer with that feeling. In a painting, a large one, 1 meter 20 by 1 meter 50, where the main and only color in it is the shades of gray. You see colors, it speaks to you, and in it you see the creation. If you want, you can see it as a blooming rose, or if you want, you can see it as a funnel in which you are sinking. A pipe, a tunnel that takes you to the bottom, to the core, where there is a little light, and above it are waves, intertwined with all kinds of monsters you can imagine from the river and from the Creator's brush, and figures of people and of prayers and everything else that your imagination and inspiration can give you while looking at this painting. And I stared in amazement, and he saw that I liked the painting.
Yes.
But I asked, do you have a price list? Yes, he says, it's somewhere. So I go, first, I snapped it before anyone else came. I send it. I ask, do you like the picture? She says, it's very nice, but you can't gauge the size from the photo. I go, I found the price list on a windowsill. I look up the number and see a price that's way too affordable, low, and so on. For this painting, you see what I see, and I say,
what you see?
What I see. That can't be, because I see what the prices are for the other paintings, which are smaller in size. I thought, I'll wait until the end. He told me to stay. We'll see. And he also told me, a collector will come here who is coming specifically to see this painting, but I want to talk to you. I said, okay. Where does my inspiration come from?
Yes?
In 2015, we attended my friend's first exhibition, though just 5 days earlier, she had already opened her seventh, and we were together then. Not so much out of respect for his work as, a person buys a painting. When she started talking to him about something and one, he had called it the creation. But his creation was the black background, which was torn here and there and showed some lighter shades. And in that tear, there was something like a red spot, not a dot, just kind of spilled. And he had called it the creation, which also gives you that association with the creation. And I took that, then we bought that painting from his exhibition in 2015. But somewhere around 2022, I think, yes, in 2023, we were visiting some friends of ours in Karjali. And we hadn't seen each other, right? We see each other from time to time, but we hadn't seen each other for such a long time. We hadn't had that much time, even together. Yeah. Usually we either leave or just pass by. This time there was more time. And she started talking with my friend's wife. Women usually have these kinds of conversations, but on the way back to Sofia, she says, next time we see them, let's give them that painting, The Creation, which we bought in 2015.
Really?
Yes.
She also knows I don't like discussing family matters outside the house.
Yes.
When I want to give someone a gift, I'll buy it, I'll go, I'll prepare properly, I'll present it, but when it comes to things from home, somehow, I don't know. That's how I was taught.
Yes.
And not out of stinginess, not out of being tight-fisted, but I have this understanding about things that whatever comes in, it's meant to stay in this home, because it's not for consumption. What's meant for eating or drinking? I was going to consume it and I didn't want to give it away, but I saw her desire that she wanted us to give this painting as a gift. I know she didn't promise it because she knows very well that she'll consult me first, then give it. But I said it like that. That's how I felt. I think they need it, right? We talked about this topic. I said, okay, fine. When we go, and the next time we're in Karjali is after how long? Maybe 3 or 4 months again in Karjali. And we're already there with the painting wrapped up and we present it. She was really pleasantly surprised because it's a nice, interesting painting. But I knew that back then we lost Sutvore Nieto.
Yes.
And we don't have Sutvore Nieto at home anymore. A week ago, Sutvore Nieto on a much larger scale, in the opposite shade of black, where now gray predominates in its colors, black you see here and there and in a much more vivid expression. Even without the red spot, I recognize Sutvore Nieto, and I say to myself, here, this is something I knew I had lost, but I gave it generously. After, she says, that's how I felt it, that's how we'll do it. I know I don't like taking things out of the house, but we do it and we give them this painting as a gift. But I secretly hoped that I would find the creation again and that it would be at home.
Look, when I lose, I don't know what I gain.
No, the point is we've walked a similar path too. And if at that moment both of us were in the darkness, searching for the light, now this picture is bright. Do you understand?
Yes, it is light.
She is already on a large scale.
Let me tell you what it is. I stayed after the end of the exhibition back then. I told him, we probably won't have a good time to talk here. Yes, he says, give me your business card. I had already given him my card the first time. I have your card, give it to me, he says. To meet, and we agreed to meet last Thursday because today is Wednesday or whatever, in Sofia to have coffee. Okay, fine, good, we'll talk, but he calls me already on Tuesday evening.
Right.
I brought the painting to the house where I live, he says. If you want, come over, we'll talk and have a glass of wine. And I already feel this.
Something is happening.
This picture? Yes, now I can have it since I left it at the exhibition, saw the price and realized it was a mistake. I asked him before I left, I said, is this the price that's... Oh no, he said, they missed a zero. And now things are, different, the prices in euros and so on. And then I just kept quiet.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, but I go there and I was prepared, from home. I said to myself, now I need something. I need to have a move. I need to have some kind of move to get the painting. It doesn't work to beg, I prayed for a house to buy. She told you here 2 hours ago. And I said, I have to have it. And I put $2,000 plus 2,000 euros.
You put them.
I put them in the wallet. And I go prepared this way. This way, we meet for a glass of wine, we talk, the painting isn't even there, it's just a table, an apartment, and we talk and share stories. It turned out that he was one of those same Canadians, except he didn't have to run to Canada. The path just opened up for him directly to use a plane, a Lufthansa flight that would drop them off in Montreal. In 93. He is an actor, graduated from Higher Institute of Theatrical Art. Back then it was Krastyo-Sarafov. Now it's National Academy for Theatre and Film Arts. He was assigned and started his first roles as a young actor in the Vratsa Theatre, where he was as a young actor. Around him were the great stars at the time, Kosta Tsonev, Konstantin Kotsev, Vasil Mikhailov. During a break between the scenes, the big names stood out, the young ones stepped aside, and I was the same, always near the older lawyers, like a dog in a butcher's shop, just listening. And he listened to them. He says they would smoke their cigarettes, and he would say, yeah, we were young, there was nothing to do in Bulgaria, because now it's too late to emigrate. And that's when the thought came to him, seeing, life was very different back then, that he could emigrate. He talked with his wife, they were young, and she agreed. When I found out, that he was a year older than me, they weren't even 30 years old, actually. They helped them, they got on Lufthansa, left, and stayed in Canada. He said, that's when the shock hit me. I'm an actor, I can't do anything else except act in the theater. I don't even know the language, he said. Besides French, their main language, they speak English too, and he speaks neither.
And to act in an unfamiliar language?
It's just not possible. And he says, those years were very hard for me. On top of that, getting recognized as immigrants, I went through a trial, he says, where, thank God, I had written a play about an incident back in the day with the son of the first one, and he had described some kind of plot, theatrical. And with that in front of the court, I performed, he says, my sketch.
Wow.
Yes, to show why, right? I believe that for political reasons, not economic ones, I feel like an immigrant and I want to immigrate. And he says, my case was successful. The judge got emotional or something. He banged the gavel and said he recognizes me. This happened in 93. He started pouring his heart out between 93 and 95 in the poems he writes. He called his poetry collection Nails and Crosses. When I asked him what that means, he said, my association is with the nails that held Christ to the cross, which also, by themselves they caused pain. The body was, and so on, stories like that. Everyone can associate them in a different way, but he also couldn't do anything until then. In 99, he is blessed with a gift from above and his hand starts to work. In 99, up until now, he already has over 60 exhibitions. His artistic name known there might interest others too. Peter G. Ray, otherwise known as Peter Georgiev.
Peter G. Ray.
Peter G. Ray. And says, this thing, he says, was recommended to me by the top critics. He says, Kenneth Moffat, who has already passed away but was a great and famous American modern art critic in his time, who, he says, saw my works and wrote in the catalogues that this art coming from my hands is something new and different. This gives him worldwide fame. So here is a man, when he has the talent, has the gift. I don't think he was pressured, but he was in need and wanted to.
But he got this thing out of himself.
Yeah, he got it out of himself. He started with the books, he analyzed it, yeah. After the poetry collection, he wrote 2 more books. He published that book here, you know.
I'll interrupt you for a moment, just to say, as a final note about the story, that in fact, when he does an exhibition, it's his second or third, and nobody buys his paintings, and he doesn't have any money, and now he has to take them back from the gallery. He carried him home on his shoulders since he couldn't afford transportation. And by chance, he passes by a church and says, "God, why is this happening to me?" And he looks down at the ground, a huge golden ring. To this day, he keeps it, and that's how he realized that this is what he should do.
And now listen, let me finish this story because now it's connected to us as well.
Yes, it's linked to the previous one and to you too.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. It's like, yes. And he agrees to sell me the painting.
Right.
Not by my 2+2 scheme. Yeah, but he brought in the element for me. You know, he says, I understood, you know, why he needs it.
Yes.
I decided to break off some more so I could have this picture because it's something unique. I'm bringing it to you. I can show it to you later. That's right. Yes, it's in the trunk of the car, so we can see what you think.
Really?
In the trunk of the car.
Wow.
What do you think?
Hey, that's inspiring.
When they were downstairs, I saw they were carrying something huge in the trunk. Could it be some kind of painting? I was thinking, why are they carrying that? Are they bringing it to someone or...
Wait, let's listen.
Here. And we, while drinking the wine, hadn't yet gotten to that part with the painting, but he says, come on now. He says, I'll bring it so we can look at it here. And we're sitting just like we're sitting at the table. At one end was a long living room, about the size of this room, with the painting at the other end, and we're looking at it. And he started urging me. He says, all right, come on. He says, open up, tell me, you know, what do you think, you know, and so on, to start talking about the money.
To get to the point?
To get to the point. And when we finally reached a balance, we found an interest for both of us and combined it. And then he told me the following. Otherwise, if we hadn't made a deal, I would have to leave in 2 days. This apartment, and I would have had to take this painting to Bosnik. He didn't tell you anything, right?
No.
Same with me.
Bosnik?
Bosnik. But something keeps nagging at me. It sounds familiar, and I say to myself, wait, now I say, isn't this Bosnik? A village, I say, which, going up to Pernik after, if you're coming back from Blagovgrad, up on the high ground, there's a sign on the right. I read it as Bosnik. You call it Bosnik, is that it? He says, yes, that's it. Then looks at me and asks, why, what? I say, man, when I first went out with my wife back when we were still dating and we were coming back to Sofia, where, you know, whenever you get together like that, you give it your all, you just can't get enough, and you wish time would stop so you wouldn't have to part because everyone had to go home. As we were driving up that hill and the sign on the right said Bosnik or Bosnik, she said to me, come on, let's go to Bosnik, she said. She knew something about it, but really it just meant more time together. That's how I understand it, you know, a bit more time together instead of heading back to Sofia in 20 minutes or however long the drive takes. And once again, I tell myself, so this is the picture with which, you know, then our little joke where she says, let's go to Bosnik, so we can have time to be together. We already have the time that is our time together. But the painting, if I hadn't taken it, it would have gone back there again.
Wow.
We know there's a house in Bosnik that belongs to him or his wife, though I'm not sure which. I said, next time we'll really go and see him. What is Bosnik without the painting? Because now the painting won't be going to Bosnik anymore.
This is a unique story.
That's why I'm telling you, the painting is also unique, no matter how you look at it. And I say these are shades of gray. You see only gray, but it's as if it has color.
And that's what we started talking about earlier regarding fate, because here it is.
That's why I'm telling you these things.
I want to share something with you.
Thank you for these stories, really.
They're a bit long, but they show meaning. There's a point.
They show great meaning?
Yes, it makes sense.
Because that's what we're looking for. I deeply believe that all of us are defined by the stories around us, and we all live both our own story and, at the same time, experience other people's stories as well. And they are intertwined?
Absolutely intertwined. These are parallel lines. Yes.
They are intertwined.
They are also the parallel lines.
Here they are.
It's very interesting because I never really hoped that we would have a long life together. Because it's kind of like a gift, you know? You sit there in a moment when you just watch things and think to yourself. And whatever comes, you just rely on the universe. And a week before that, a friend and I were in Karjali, not in Karjali actually, but further up in the Rodope Mountains, to have a ritual sacrifice made for us. I said, what is this luck of mine, this luck? It just comes out of nowhere. I mean, everything for me is, you know? I always seem to fall just short of what I need for things to work out for me. Even the man making the sacrifice for us brought 2 lambs, and my lamb was so large I couldn't carry it. We tied it to a 4-legged chair so we could carry it. He says you have to go home tonight, and he says to unpack it and give it away. Or there are countless things I never expected. But he said, in a week, the person you will spend the rest of your life with will knock on your door.
No way.
Exactly 1 week later, he asked me to stay. That's why I say you see fate, but there are things that are really like signals. Our favorite movie is Me Before You. They showed this movie. I've probably watched it 8 or 9 times since we got together. This true story, you know, about love. And there's a fantastic song at the end, which is my favorite. My dream was to be in Bali, but before Bali, we went to Thailand. And what happened is that since I had been waiting for Bali, I had really imagined it in my own way. When we arrived at the place where we were in Phuket, in a resort, that was my dream. And that's how the tears started, because I couldn't believe that the picture I had in my head was actually real. We sat down for dinner that evening as they played the song from Me Before You to start the meal. And you see what kind of synchronization there is. How many signs that you are exactly where you need to be, in exactly the way you need to be.
Amazing.
And these are the things that make a person happy, because first, they bring back memories, but second, they fill them with the real picture of the moment here and now. It's one thing to watch the movie and dream about it afterward. It's another when, see, I knew we had Sutvore Nieto at home, but we gave it away as a gift. But I insisted on having a picture of the creation, maybe because of the name, maybe because of what's inside it. And it came. It came in the way it was presented to me. You know, I currently have a masterpiece by a world-renowned artist. He already, you know, we became friends because we met 2 or 3 more times after the painting, right up until he left. On Sunday, we had coffee together, and he told me, you know, you have a Peter G. Ray painting, I said. Yes, and I'm thrilled because it's his best work. And this is his only painting that's entirely in gray, because he has other ones in gray, but in those he adds another color, magenta, blue, or something else. Here it's just gray, yet it still looks colorful. Yes.
Look at that. I wish all of us could keep this enthusiasm that you have with your experience at your age, with the same sense of wonder, to have things to strive for, things that inspire us, that ignite us. That's it.
See how amazing it is to be passionate and full of emotion.
It's really cool.
Inspiration and imagination, that's the recipe. And love, of course.
Of course.
Nothing works without love.
That's right.
What are you thinking about right now, right here, as a result of this conversation as we are gathered here? What comes to your mind? What are you telling yourself? What is your mind thinking about right now?
I can tell you what I thought as soon as you ask. But only on Serbian.
Yes.
Everything without you is nothing, and nothing with you is everything.
Oh, how wonderful it is.
When you say this in Bulgarian, it doesn't sound like that.
No, let's leave it in Serbian.
That's it. When you say it in Serbian, it's unique. Yes, sve bez tebe is nothing. Yes, with you, nothing is everything.
Yes.
Here, this is a beat.
Very nice. I somehow got immersed in the story, in the feeling. And that's it. Once again, I'm in the dream. Even here, I'm in the dream. Somehow, I keep finding myself in my dreams. It was never about self-serving goals or showing off, not at all. It was about the experience itself. I even told Valeto, I said, I'm coming to an exam, somehow a universal exam. I'm counting the things that will go through my mind. I really came with the idea to be helpful to people through sharing, because that's what you do. You open minds with your experience and by sharing what you carry inside yourself. And to know someone will find their own truth and believe real things can happen. And that's what I'm thinking, that once again I'm living in my dream.
Yes, I also feel very present and completely immersed in the moment, which is very beautiful. When you realize exactly in those small moments when you're truly inside and time is really an illusion. Just disappeared.
That's right.
This is beautiful.
Academician Novikov urges this to everyone he meets.
Right?
Yes, to do the things they like, the things that inspire them, because only in this way will they develop. They will be constructive. They will have people around them to make happy, and they will continue with the same drive and energy they get from that joy, moving forward on their path.
You've met Novikov in person, haven't you?
Last year
For the first time, or was it another meeting?
Well, for me, it was the first time. I had seen him before. Sorry for interrupting you, but he impressed me. She was young. You weren't born yet. At the end of the 80s.
And you're 100 years old?
At the end of the 80s, before 89, every Sunday, back then was the most watched show because it offered a different point of view and was an unconventional show, a television show that, Besides, Kevorkian hosted it in a way that really made you want to watch television for 2 hours. And he invited interesting personalities. One of them who impressed me at the time was the youngest academician in the Soviet Union, and that was Mirza Karim Norbekov. An interesting name, as his status was especially notable, as in the Soviet Union, becoming an academician at around 30, he was 32 or 33, was remarkable. That's a very big recognition from a country like the Soviet Union. And that's when I first heard the name, and then suddenly he disappeared from my sight. But when Denis Slavka, before we went to Uzbekistan, we started watching his videos about the eyes.
When we got together, I had been on a 10-day hike with Norbekov. He came to pick me up from that hike. For years I've been following an extremely valuable person, but there are 3 moments in Uzbekistan that remain unforgettable. Aside from the country itself, the knowledge that's there. You really have to go there. He welcomes you really like a king in his own country. And you have to see how many ancient sciences started from there and what path they have made in the history of humanity. Something we couldn't even imagine. An extremely beautiful country. One of the things, while we were traveling by bus from city to city, we had a stop in the desert, and we had to stay in the desert for 3 days. In some tents, yurts, and while we were traveling, she gave us intuition exercises.
And you then, sorry to interrupt you, did you wear glasses?
Back then I didn't wear them, but I was going for the intuition, for all the other things he was offering, and I thought, okay, now I started thinking, and if you wait 2 minutes, what happens after 3? He says that intuition is trained every day. Right now, as I'm leaving from here, I'll think outside about who will be on the entrance, who will be in front, who will be from. It's not like you're just waiting for something. This is training that we've lost as experience. And then I said to myself, I'm going to see a green elephant. And I thought, oh my God, I just thought it completely flat. There's nothing, nothing. 2 minutes later, there was a huge inflatable green lounge, and I said, wow. And my other unforgettable, more interesting adventure was that in the evening we would gather around a fire in the desert. He had invited us to show us things, like the dancers who dance with their eyes. the people who live what they do, and that was so powerful. Every day, he would tell us about a different person who truly lives what they do. And he invited people who compose film music to play in the desert under the stars and sing to us. And it was incredible. But then these huge clouds started coming, and you could see it was about to rain any moment. He just went whoosh, and everything disappeared. It's just that when you see it, then you realize that we really have such powers, such abilities.
But casually, without any effort.
Yes. She goes like, you. And she just told us, there, calm down, and everything went away. Incredible experiences, really. And then you see that all of this works, it just works. But we don't train it within ourselves.
And we don't look for it either. First, you have to look for it, and then you have to start training it.
And actually, this is the first time.
For me, yes. For her, it's the second time, because she...
I have. Yes, I interrupted you, Krasi. First, I had a hike, and I have been... He taught the first ones. First, it's for healing. Second, where you learn the basics of understanding. Now, it's not him anymore. And it was really cool, for it to happen. But whatever school you choose, whether it's Buddhism or Norbakov, he gives his knowledge. Right now, I'm focused on the Bible. And it seems like this is my place. Maybe I'll find my place under the sun too, because somehow we just clicked, we bonded in an incredible way. I can't separate myself from the Bible, that's the truth.
Krasi.
I'm looking at both, the two interstellar posters here.
Yes, that's the other point of view.
Yes, and I remember what the plot and the idea were. On my 60th birthday, if my 55th was a cowboy party, the 60th was an Oscar for friendship.
That's something unique, by the way. Really, congratulations on the organization.
Yes, I love to.
And then Denis Lavka, whom I mentioned I met in 2015 on June 22nd. That's when World War II broke out. No, don't think otherwise. I've studied history. Yes, so that year I saw that Interstellar won an Oscar.
Yes, that's right.
And even though I met our best man who was at our wedding that same evening, 2 or 3 hours before I met her, I also had to pick a 2015 movie for him as a title. Of course, I found one for him too. Actually, right now I can't remember it because I don't have the script, but for Denis Lavka it was Interstellar, and I think I made the right choice. Very much so. It's mostly the embodiment of her search, her faith, her conviction, and what I read below the name, that the end of the earth doesn't mean the end of us, right? It doesn't mean our end. She is the biggest optimist I know, and everything she does starts with faith. Or optimism. Some might call it that, and that faith never fades. So it became kind of funny to me when I walked in and said, I'll find a way to say it. I just couldn't hold back.
Thank you for mentioning it. That's
a very special moment.
A special moment, and this is my favorite movie, number one, even though I've seen a lot of movies, but Interstellar always comes out just a bit above all the rest because the movie starts and ends in a very interesting way. There's a blending of past and future and so on, but it shakes you. And this movie, for all cinema enthusiasts, should be watched on the big screen again and again, if possible.
We would gladly watch it. But with you and your interpretation of the movie, I can't wait. That's the next dream I want to be in.
With pleasure. It's not by accident that it's placed here. And by the way, this is the shot this is their ship, which is on the verge of entering the black hole, because that's the only option they have to move forward. And here you have this thing. On one hand, how small we are compared to the vastness of space, and on the other hand, how even just a little bit of light. The path will appear. The movie is very powerful, but How do you respond to people who tell you that you're crazy for what you believe in? No matter how it's been over the years, isn't this unusual?
I can make the situation funny. It really is something to laugh about. We have our family, friends, and now Krasi is visibly showing support for my views, and we talk openly about things. And our friend just turns around and says, "Looks like we'll have to give you a yellow card." But we just laugh, right? Because in the end, I know that all these people will come to these realizations. They just need to go through their own journey. And the very fact that they are exposed to a slightly different way of thinking, which can free them and break down these truths, is very meaningful. I really imagine it the way Gesh describes it, that we are in four walls and we have to break them down. This is about seeing the past, the future. I mean, everything is one whole and this stretched out space. Somehow to master this high level skill and merge with the entire universe. Because I'm sure that all my ancestors, that's just how I feel, are waiting for a family member to reach out and bring everyone into the light so all can share it. Each of us comes to this earth for a much greater purpose than what we think. One of the things is maybe really to break through, to reach that awareness and to reach out your hand, just like that, to look and reach out your hand, to pull them up, because in the end, I am here, Krasi is here. Each one of us is here thanks to the work of a family line. Mother, father, mother, father. People who have taken care so that I could get here. To appear. I have work to do. I want to do it. And I am open to doing it.
Before we finish, and to thank you once again for opening up and so bravely and freely sharing stories from your life of self-awareness with us. This is very valuable for us, for our audience, and for the format we've created, not just as a show, but as a platform. Because this sharing, this opening up, yes, it doesn't always happen right away. It almost never happens like that. However, the first steps we take, that's also for me a way of reaching out. Because when I share my pain or realization or journey, the person across from me is more likely to do the same. And in this way, the third person who is just getting to know this says to themselves, hey, wait, here I can find understanding, I can find acceptance, and as more and more people join, but at the same time, each one walking their own individual path, then for me comes this whirlwind. Then on one hand we are together, on the other hand everyone keeps their individuality in this togetherness, and that is truly magical. And I thank you for sharing a part of yourself today and leaving it here. Everyone leaves something of themselves here, making the space feel full, and I can say quite seriously it's pleasant and genuine.
That's the feeling. You come in and you feel it too. It's very light and very pleasant. And personally, I have a very warm feeling toward everyone who has been there. I've even watched some episodes twice, and it's exactly these seemingly ordinary people who carry so much richness, and it's worth sharing.
Before we finish, dear people, we've been doing something since the beginning of this season, and that's for me to ask a few questions, with the rule being that you answer with just one sentence.
But can I first answer you on why didn't you let me answer you?
Of course, I assumed.
That were crazy. I was going to pass, but when she spoke up and said, he's my friend, but as a family, there are friends too, family friends.
She couldn't take it.
About the crazy ones. So this thing crossed my mind from you.
Okay.
The people who are watching you expect this. You speak in a way that's expected, interesting, of course, enriching, giving a different point of view, backed up with knowledge and everything. They expect it from you, and that's what's expected of you. But what you're doing now, in our case, with us, with others in our place, and so on, this is very useful for every person has potential, every person has faith, every person has inspiration and imagination. And by giving more people the opportunity to share and about inspiration, about imagination, to remember things that made them believe there is meaning in these things, that they are fundamental as values and as laws. This gives courage every time to others who are still hesitating. You don't need to come to this studio and tell these things. It's important to believe that you have the courage to show what you think you can do in the best way. What you believe is timeless, that it will always lead us to the light. When you do these things, this will inevitably inspire people even more. Whoever is still hesitating, let them watch the shows.
Respect and thank you for this edition of yours. Really, this is very kind, and at the same time, I also believe in this thing, and that's why we did it this way, because one of the great Hermetic principles, it shares the idea of polarities, that everything is dual, everything has its polarity and its nature. Nothing is absolute, everything has two halves. And I was asking myself, okay, I have made so many shows, solo ones, where it's just me sharing my experiences, or whether it's knowledge, as you said, what is expected of me, because that's how I have built it. But what is the other polarity? How will I be able to present myself while presenting other people? And how will I be able to do that? Not just to be different from the others, but really to try to still be myself while others share their story. And let's not talk about ordinary things, about everyday matters, about what overwhelms us, about the questions everyone knows I could ask you, and I will never ask you those. But about what really matters, about the two whys, about devotion to others, and truly about the freedom to express yourself and to be yourself. That, on one hand, now that I think about it while you say it, maybe for some people it seems like it's a mystery and it seems like somehow there's some secret in everything we do. And we really follow the flow with an open heart, the signs, and everything that happens around us. That's how meaningful conversations start. Thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. Before we finish, I really want us to do the little game we play every time. All right, Krasi. What is
One sentence.
love?
Feelings?
Denis? Where do we come from?
From the whole.
And where are we going?
Toward the light.
And why are we here?
To experience the knowledge we carry.
And what is forgiveness?
Purity.
And what is the truth?
Courage.
And what is courage?
Strength.
A bow, and thank you for your participation, for the warmth, for the honesty, for the strength, for the inspiration, the imagination, and the understanding you left here with us. It was a great pleasure for me.
We thank you endlessly, and what you do is something truly great.
Keep going, do it. Good luck.
Thank you. We just didn't mention when the date for the second Merchant of the New Land is, let's say. If we broadcast it, let's make sure it's recorded by then.
July 29th.
What July?
20 and you with this July? 22nd, 29th. November.
29th of November.
Saturday, November 29, 9 o'clock, Ante Meridium Interexpo Center, Vitosha Hall.
Thank you once again, really, and see you again soon in just a moment.
See you soon. It's always so nice with you.